Jason Carter drummed his fingers against his steering wheel, staring at the gleaming trucks displayed across his dealership lot. From the outside, Carter's trucks looked impressive, one of the most successful dealerships in the state. But something had been nagging at him lately. Sales were strong, but customer reviews had become increasingly mixed over the past 6 months. Some praised the selection and prices, while others complained about hidden fees and aggressive sales tactics. As the owner, Jason had built this business from the ground up 15 years ago, pouring his heart and soul into creating a dealership people could trust. The thought that something might be rotting beneath the surface made his stomach churn. That's why he was sitting in his beat-up Toyota Corolla instead of his usual Mercedes, wearing old jeans, a worn flannel shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His normally clean-shaven face sported 3 days of stubble. The transformation had taken careful planning. None of his newer employees had ever met him in person, as he'd been managing things remotely while expanding to other locations. Taking a deep breath, Jason stepped out of his car. He'd created a complete backstory for his character, Mike Thompson, a construction worker looking to upgrade his work vehicle. "Welcome to Carter's Trucks." A young salesman practically bounced over, flashing a practiced smile. "I'm Tom. What brings you in today?" Jason pitched his voice slightly higher than normal. "Name's Mike. Been saving up for a while, looking to get something reliable for work. Construction business ain't exactly gentle on vehicles, you know." Tom's eyes lit up. "Oh, we've got exactly what you need. What's your budget looking like?" "Got about $35,000 saved up," Jason replied, knowing this was a comfortable middle-range price point. As Tom led him through the lot, Jason paid careful attention to everything: how the salesman presented the vehicles, which features he emphasized, and most importantly, what he didn't mention. They stopped in front of a silver Ford F-150. "This beauty just came in last week," Tom explained. "It's got everything you need: robust engine, excellent towing capacity, and our exclusive Carter's protection package included." Jason's ears perked up. The protection package wasn't supposed to be automatically included. It was an optional add-on. He made a mental note while maintaining his interested but slightly overwhelmed expression. After a thorough inspection and test drive, Jason agreed to start the paperwork. As they settled at Tom's desk, Jason noticed how the young salesman's hands trembled slightly. "So, Mr. Thompson," Tom began, his earlier confidence wavering. "We just need to go through some standard paperwork. The base price is $37,000, and with our premium protection package and processing fees." He trailed off, eyes darting toward the office of Dan Reynolds, the sales manager. "What kind of processing fees we talking about?" Jason asked. Before Tom could answer, a commotion from the next desk caught their attention. Jason turned slightly, careful not to appear too interested, but his heart rate quickened. "This isn't right." Mark Henderson's voice cracked with emotion. "My wife and I calculated everything down to the last dollar. We've been saving for 2 years. The middle-aged man stood at the adjacent desk, gripping papers so tightly they were beginning to crumple. Mark's red uniform shirt bore the logo of a local delivery company. A small photo fell from among his papers, a snapshot of 3 young children gathered around a birthday cake. Dan Reynolds emerged from his office, his expensive suit a stark contrast to Mark's humble appearance. "Mr. Henderson," Dan's voice was smooth as oil, "I understand your frustration, but these fees are clearly outlined in the fine print of your agreement." He pulled out a document, pointing to microscopic paragraphs at the bottom. "The market adjustment fee, the mandatory extended warranty, and our premium service package, they're all standard." Mark's face paled. "But Josh, your salesman, he promised me the total would be $32,000, not $35,000. My family's entire savings is in that down payment. We can't afford another $3,000. Dan's professional smile didn't waver. "I'm afraid Josh is no longer with the company, Mr. Henderson. And while I sympathize with your situation, verbal discussions are superseded by the written agreement you signed. Perhaps you should have read it more carefully." From his position, Jason noticed the document had a date stamp from this morning. The ink was still fresh. "Please," Mark's voice dropped to a whisper. "My oldest daughter's starting college this fall. We've been planning this purchase for months. The truck I have now barely runs, and I need something reliable for my delivery route. Without this job, I can't pay for her tuition." Dan leaned back, adjusting his gold cufflinks. "Well, You have two options, Mr. Henderson. You can either arrange to pay the additional fees by the end of the week, or we'll have to terminate the sale. Of course, the cancellation clause means you'll forfeit your $5,000 deposit. Jason watched as all color drained from Mark's face. $5,000, likely his family's entire emergency fund. Either way, the trap was elegant in its cruelty. Pay more than you can afford or lose what you've already paid. This is robbery. Mark's voice trembled. I'll report this to the owner. I'll go to the Better Business Bureau. Dan's smile turned predatory. By all means, feel free to contact Mr. Carter. He's a very busy man, expanding the business to other states. I'm sure your complaint will eventually make it to his desk. He lowered his voice. And between us, who do you think they'll believe? A delivery driver who didn't read his contract, or the manager of a multi-million-dollar dealership? Mark's shoulders slumped in defeat. Jason fought to maintain his disguise. Every fiber of his being wanted to stand up and end this corruption, but he knew he needed more. Should we continue with your paperwork, Mr. Thompson? Tom asked uncomfortably. Actually, Jason said, could I get a breakdown of all the fees first? Want to make sure I understand everything I'm signing up for. As Mark Henderson gathered his papers and trudged toward the exit, Jason committed every detail to memory. He silently promised that justice would come. After Tom excused himself, Jason leaned forward conspiratorially. Say, those fees the manager was talking about, they going to show up on my paperwork too? Tom glanced around before responding, his voice barely above a whisper. Look, Mr. Thompson, I shouldn't be saying this, but Dan, Mr. Reynolds, he has this system. We're supposed to keep the initial quotes low, get people emotionally invested, then introduce the mandatory fees during final paperwork. He took a shaky breath. If we don't follow his process, we get assigned to dead hours, early mornings, Sunday evenings. Can't make commission if there aren't any customers, right? Some of us tried to push back, but Dan made examples of them. Like Josh, the guy who sold to Mr. Henderson. He refused to play along, tried to be upfront about prices. Now he's gone. Jason stood. Mind if I use the restroom? Need a minute to think about all this. He wandered the showroom, observing other sales in progress. Near the finance office, he overheard two employees laughing. Poor guy was so excited about the truck he didn't even notice we'd added the premium package. By the time he figured it out, the cooling-off period was over. In the customer lounge, a young farmer mentioned being told the market adjustment fee. New state regulation. A retired couple believed they were getting a special discount, unaware that the savings merely offset inflated fees. Back at Tom's desk, Jason pushed further. That protection package you mentioned, is that really necessary? Tom lowered his voice again. Well, technically it's optional, but Dan reviews all contracts before approval. If someone declines the package, their financing suddenly becomes unavailable or their trade-in value drops mysteriously. As they talked, Dan emerged to rescue another struggling sale. Jason watched the manager's technique, a masterwork of psychological manipulation. First expressing understanding, then subtly introducing doubt, finally presenting the inflated price as the only realistic option. The evidence was overwhelming. This wasn't just one rogue manager. It was systematic corruption. As the afternoon wore on, Jason compiled mental notes of every violation. When Tom finally slid the preliminary paperwork across his desk, Jason noticed the initial price had already begun to inflate with mysterious charges. Actually, Tom, before I sign anything, I'd like to speak with Mr. Reynolds about these fees. Mind setting that up? Tom's face flickered with concern, but he nodded. Minutes later, Jason found himself in Dan's office, where dark wood and leather created an atmosphere of manufactured authority. Mr. Thompson, Dan began, his smile calculated. Tom tells me you have some concerns about our pricing structure. Yeah, see, I couldn't help but notice what happened with that other customer earlier. Those fees seemed to come out of nowhere. Dan leaned back, studying Jason. After a moment, he chuckled. You're sharper than most, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate that. He dropped his voice conspiratorially. Let me be straight with you. This business isn't about selling trucks. It's about selling dreams. People walk in here thinking they're buying transportation, but what they're really buying is status, power, the American dream on four wheels. He stood, walking to his window. You see those people out there? They don't know what they want until we tell them. They don't know what they can afford until we show them how to stretch their budgets. Isn't that a bit dishonest? Jason asked carefully, while his phone recorded everything. Dan turned back, a predatory gleam in his eyes. Dishonest? Please. The owner, Carter, he's too busy counting profits from his multiple locations to care about our methods. As long as the numbers keep climbing, he stays away. And trust me, the numbers have never been better. But what about customers who can't really afford these extra charges? That's the beauty of it, Dan smirked. By the time they realize what's happened, they're already emotionally invested. Nobody wants to admit they've been played. Pride is a powerful thing. Most would rather struggle with payments than face their families and admit they got conned. Jason felt his fingers digging into the armrests. And the owner really has no idea? Dan laughed outright. Carter? He's a fool, living in the past, still believing in honest business practices. This is the real world. You know what happened to the last guy who tried to report our methods to him? I buried the complaint so deep it probably still hasn't seen daylight. Rising from his chair, Dan perched on the edge of his desk. Look, I can tell you're a smart man. Let me make you a deal. The protection package that's mandatory, I can make it disappear, for a cash consideration, of course. And this works? Nobody ever catches on. Please. Dan waved dismissively. I've built this system over 2 years, and it's perfect. The owner is too trusting, the customers are too desperate, and the staff is too afraid of losing their jobs. It's foolproof. He pulled out a contract. So what do you say, Mr. Thompson? Ready to be one of the smart ones? Jason stared at the contract. He had everything he needed. And everyone's in on this. The whole staff. The ones who matter are, Dan replied, his arrogance on full display. The rest either play along or find themselves working somewhere else. He leaned in closer. Between us, I've made more in kickbacks this year than Carter probably makes in legitimate profit. The old man's so focused on expansion, he doesn't even notice his flagship location has become a gold mine. As Dan continued bragging, Jason felt cold clarity settle over him. This was about the systematic destruction of everything he'd built. Actually, Dan, Jason said, rising slowly from his chair, his voice dropping its affected tone and returning to its natural resonance. I think we need to discuss your employment status. He removed his baseball cap, standing to his full height. The transformation in Dan's face was instantaneous. Confusion, then recognition, followed by pure terror. Mr. Carter? Dan stumbled backward. I can explain. Can you? Jason's voice cut through the air like steel. He pressed a button on his phone, and Dan's earlier words filled the office. The owner is too trusting. The customers are too desperate. All staff to the showroom floor immediately, Jason announced over the intercom. Emergency meeting. No exceptions. Dan made a desperate lunge for his computer, but Jason was faster. Touch that machine and I'll add destruction of evidence to the list of charges. Within minutes, the showroom filled with confused employees. For those who don't know me, I'm Jason Carter, the owner of this dealership. His voice carried across the suddenly silent room. Today I discovered something disturbing about how our business has been operating. He played selected portions of his recordings, including Dan's brazen admissions. With each revelation, the atmosphere grew heavier. Tom, Jason called out, please tell everyone what you told me about how sales hours are assigned. Tom stepped forward, his voice shaky but gaining strength as he explained the system of rewards and punishments. Furthermore, Jason continued, I've spent the day documenting numerous violations of not just our company policies, but state and federal laws. He turned to Dan. Would you like to explain how you've been burying customer complaints? Or should we discuss the kickbacks? Dan's professional mask cracked. You can't prove anything. Actually, Jason held up his phone. I have hours of recordings. Not to mention the digital trail I'm sure our IT department will uncover. He addressed the staff. I'm implementing an immediate freeze on all pending sales. Every contract from the past 6 months will be reviewed. If you've participated in these schemes, you have one chance. Come forward now with full documentation, and we'll discuss your future. Try to hide anything, and you'll be terminated without reference and potentially face legal charges. One by one, employees began stepping forward, some to confess, others to report incidents they'd witnessed. As for you, Dan, you're fired effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Don't bother deleting anything. Our IT team is already creating backups. Two security guards appeared, flanking Dan. "You're making a mistake, Carter." Dan's face contorted with rage. "This business will tank without me. Those profit margins you love, they'll disappear. I'd rather earn an honest dollar than steal 100. Jason replied calmly. "Security, please make sure Mr. Reynolds doesn't take anything that doesn't belong to him." As Dan was led away, Jason addressed the remaining staff. "Starting tomorrow, we begin fixing this mess. Every customer who was overcharged will be contacted and compensated. Every fraudulent fee will be refunded. Every dishonest practice will end." He paused. "Some of you, 15,453, tried to resist this corruption. You were punished for it. That ends now. Integrity will be rewarded here, not penalized." Slow clapping interrupted the moment. Everyone turned to see Mark Henderson standing in the entrance. "Mr. Henderson," Jason walked over. "I believe we need to review your contract. You'll be getting the truck at the price you were originally quoted, with a full refund of any extra fees." Mark's eyes welled with tears. "Your daughter's tuition will be paid on time," Jason assured him. "And I'd like to offer you a sincere apology on behalf of Carter's Trucks. We failed you, and we're going to make it right. Tomorrow," he announced to everyone, "we start rebuilding this dealership's reputation. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But we will restore the trust we've lost, one customer at a time." In the weeks that followed, Carter's Trucks underwent a complete transformation. Jason installed large digital displays throughout the showroom showing real-time pricing with all fees clearly explained. The dealership's new motto read, "Clarity, Honesty, Trust." Tom approached Jason one morning with a thick folder. "I've been keeping records of all the questionable deals Dan pushed through. Dates, amounts, customer information, everything." Jason leafed through the documents, his respect growing. "You took a big risk documenting all this." "I couldn't stop it, but I couldn't live with myself if I didn't at least keep track," Tom replied. "How would you feel about heading up our new customer advocacy department?" Jason personally called every customer who had been overcharged. Each conversation shared the same core message: honest acknowledgement and commitment to making things right. The conference room became a hub of reconciliation. Jason tracked down Josh, the salesman who'd been fired for refusing to participate in Dan's schemes, and offered him not just his job back, but a promotion to sales trainer. "The key," Josh explained to new hires, "is that we're not just selling trucks. We're building relationships based on trust." Local news outlets picked up the story, but what really caught attention was the aftermath: how Carter's Trucks had transformed itself into a model of ethical business practices. Mark Henderson's story became a symbol of redemption. Jason created a scholarship program in his daughter's name, offering financial assistance to children of customers pursuing higher education. "It's not just about selling trucks anymore," Jason explained to a reporter. "It's about being part of the community, about showing that success and integrity aren't mutually exclusive." While profits initially dipped, customer satisfaction soared. Word of mouth brought new buyers tired of games at other dealerships. 6 months after the exposure, Carter's Trucks hosted a Community Appreciation Day. The lot filled with families enjoying free food and music. During the event, Jason watched Tom walk an elderly couple through every feature, every cost, taking time to explain everything clearly. Their faces showed only excitement, no anxiety. As the sun began to set, Jason found himself standing where he'd first parked his beat-up Toyota months ago. The dealership looked different now, not just physically, but in its very essence. Mark Henderson approached with a warm smile. "You know, Mr. Carter, what you did here, it's bigger than just cars and trucks. You showed people that integrity still matters." Jason nodded, watching the last customers leave with smiles. "Sometimes you have to tear everything down to rebuild it right. But it's worth it when you see families getting exactly what they were promised." The dealership's lights came on, illuminating the lot where rows of trucks gleamed. Inside his office, Jason added a final touch: a framed photo of his father's old truck dealership, a reminder of why he'd started this business. Next to it, he placed a new sign: "Trust is earned one honest deal at a time." As he walked out that evening, Jason Carter felt deep satisfaction. His dealership wasn't just selling trucks anymore. It was setting a new standard for ethical business practices. Looking back at the illuminated showroom, Jason smiled. Sometimes the best way to lead was by example. even if it meant going undercover to uncover the truth. The dealership's redemption story wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about showing that in business, as in life, doing the right thing wasn't just an option. It was the only way forward.